Because this guy was actually working for Huawei in China.
It doesn't matter who. If you're connected...
Because there's no evidence. There's no evidence.
No, so Richard Branson could be a corrupt businessman.
I don't believe.
but no
I
one
don't
in
believe
NASA
things.
could be a corrupt businessman.
Richard Branson.
Nobody's saying that. No, hang
I'm
on.
a NASA
hang
show.
on. Don't make me fight you all the time, dude.
I think
Please.
the comment that I'm responding to was that there's a big difference between an unscrupulous businessman and those NASA shills.
So how?
That was the
What
comment I'm
evidence?
responding to.
So what evidence do you have that anyone at NASA has done anything dishonest?
What evidence do you have that no one at NASA has ever done anything dishonest?
Well, that's not how we work it, is it? We don't.
Well, that
say.
was my question to you.
Okay,
was how
so
could there
you're
not
working on. So you're working on the premise that everyone is guilty until they're proven innocent.
Business is cutthroat. Business doesn't care about your
However, but
feelings.
is that a reasonable position that everyone who could be in the know at NASA, they're all guilty? We should assume that they're all guilty of lying without any evidence that they are. We should just
shouldn't put
assume.
them on a pedestal.
Well, that's a common thing now.
Hang on, God. So I'm not saying we should put them on a pedestal. I'm saying, should we operate from the default position that they're all liars?
Yes.
Every
Okay,
business.
so here's the
Why?
question.
Why would you operate?
No,
Because
here's
right now we're
here's
in a
the counter-
situation where everyone
No.
is
Great.
ill until they tell us otherwise. That's
Right,
how they
let's-
work.
What did Solar have to say on this?
I just said that every business has gray areas. And
Right, but
what we're just simply trying to do is to say, look, looking at a Branson who represents like space travel and is kind of like the globe narrative of how we're going to explore privately and you guys are all going to go up or you're going to send
how
us
is that the
flat earthers to
globe
see the curve.
narrative? Hold on, how is that the
for
globe
6 years,
narrative?
For 6 years,
Because
you guys
according
have
to
been
you
saying,
guys,
"Can
the
I buy
globe
you a
narrative
ticket?"
is, according to you guys, the globe narrative is we're stuck here, we can't go anywhere, we're insignificant. That's the globe narrative. So how is this, we're going exploring in space, how is that now the globe narrative? Why have you...
Since the beginning, you guys have said, we'll buy you a ticket so you can go up and see the curvature of the Earth and then there won't be another flat earther left on this place.
Well, I haven't said that.
Since 2015, that was a very common thing. And in
now
2007...
now that's possible. Oh dear, what are you
2008,
going to do?
But in 2007, 2008, Branson did exactly the same thing with almost the same equipment. They've just made it slightly larger. They've done a couple of tweaks, and they've now repeated the same stunt again, so that buys them some more time. The point I was making is that every business has gray areas.
You're an idiot. Hold on a
There's
minute.
always
Hold
a
on.
gray area. You
Hold
take
on a
the
minute. Hold
stance
on.
that
Hold
there
on. Stop.
can't be a gray area in NASA.
No, I don't. I don't.
Unless
take that
I
stance.
can show you the actual factual disciplinary
Yes, I say,
procedure that was
yes.
taken against someone.
Oh God.
But the point is that we know about the compartmentalization. We know that it's military and we know that it's government. So they wouldn't be sharing this stuff publicly. So the point that we were just trying to make, the only thing Kimo and I were trying to say is,
no, the
how
point.
can
You've
you
made
hold
it
them
4
spotless?
times. Let me fucking respond, for God's sake. Right.
All ears.
Well, I wonder. You're just rambling on, dude.
No, but you didn't let me make my final
All right,
point.
go ahead. Go ahead. Say it
The
again.
final point
for the 4th
was
time.
how can you assume that they haven't done anything gray in the existence of NASA to place them on the pedestal that you guys do, unquestioningly slurping down any shit that they squirt at you?
Right, well, that's not true. I don't unquestioningly slurp down any shit that they throw at me. That's just silly rhetoric, isn't it? And yes, I operate from the point of view that if we're going to accuse someone of a crime or assume that they're involved in criminal activity, we require evidence. I think that that is a perfectly reasonable position to hold. And in the absence of such evidence, I do not assume that people are fraudulent criminals. You do. Why?
Because they've been proven to be untrustworthy with their harnesses, with
His
their
whole
green
point
screens,
was
Right,
no one
exactly.
proved it.
all the various points.
Right. So, I mean, and I made this exact point only a few minutes ago. That's not true, is it? You're a liar. You're telling lies.
It is true.
Listen.
It's
Let
been
me
proven and
finish.
captured.
Let me finish.
No,
Let
but
me
you're
finish.
just saying it's not true.
All right. I'll tell you what. Well, I can't finish to elaborate on that point, can I? Because you are preventing me. So, that is not true. They haven't been proven anything. If they had been proven, then that would have ended up in a court. Somebody would have lost their job. Somebody would have gone to jail. This would be written about. Nothing has been proven, and you haven't seen any harnesses. You imagine you're seeing harnesses, and you say this piece of completely this air where no objects exist whatsoever, where there's nothing visible that I can see at all, there I can see a harness.
I would say this though.
This is not a reason, this is not good enough reason to be accusing people of crimes. You haven't proven anything. You lied when you said that. Stop lying. Go ahead. Oh, don't go ahead. I muted the wrong person.
You muted me before.
Yeah, because you wouldn't shut the fuck up, dude. And I want to make a point
I'm
myself. You've been talking for at least, probably 3 or 4 hours, and I can't even get a few words in without having to wade through you all the time. It's annoying. Now, go ahead, Solar.
Look, saying it's not true versus me saying it is true and then providing video evidence. I think there must be 30 or 40 green screen glitches. There must be at least 10 to 12 harnesses that they have. They haven't.
There are no harnesses. Show me one harness. Show me one harness. Show me a harness.
That little Asian guy swinging behind. There's 2 guys discussing a topic, and in the background you see a guy.
Right. Where does the harness
flying
run to?
through the background?
Okay. Where does the harness go to and from?
Okay, you can deny that the guy who's strapped to a harness is
you
wearing
can
a harness.
answer the question.
But
where does the harness go
like
to
I
and
said,
from?
Who wins by taking
Come
the
on,
government to
you
court?
can say it. It goes from
Who
his
wins?
waist. It goes from his waist to 3 inches above his waist. Does not appear to attach to anything, has none of the properties of a harness, would not be in the position that a harness would be, would not allow his body to be in that position if he was in gravity. Nothing about this thing is a harness. And that's the only one that you can refer to where you can actually see some sort of an object. All of the other things that you claim, we're looking at thin air, and you have to imagine a harness. And as for your green screen glitches, that's not true either. You have no evidence that any green screen.
True.
You've no evidence.
Everything you've just said is wrong.
You have no evidence that any green screen has ever been used for anything. Okay, if what I've said is wrong, show me a harness. Go ahead. Because what I've said is wrong, so show me a fucking harness.
There obviously are green screen glitches, and you can choose not to see the elephant in the room, and that's your
So
prerogative.
you have no evidence that there are green screen glitches, do you?
Have you
Well,
ever
I've
seen
provided-
have you ever seen
None
a video
Again-
buffering?
Again, this is just your imagination, and that's all.
But this is where you're wrong, because you cannot
Okay, so
allow
show
the
me-
information. You cannot allow the information to lead you to where the obvious conclusion should
No,
take you.
There is no.
You already have a preconceived conclusion that
No,
NASA
you
has
do,
never
Solar.
committed
Yeah,
anything.
okay,
And then
let's
when
get me
you
any
look at the
piece of
evidence,
footage.
You have
Get-
to unpick it in a very neat way to make it fit neatly into the basket you need
No,
it
I
to fit
don't.
into.
No, I don't. I just look at the evidence. I look at bullshitting flat earthers making bullshit videos where they edit a tiny 4 or 5 seconds of video and repeat it over and over again and crop the edges of it and add sound to it and do all sorts of things like that. I was shown one of those only last week from a leading flat earther, from a globebuster, in fact, who produced that monstrosity. And I saw another one from, oh God, what's her name? I can't remember. Where we're supposedly, Dell, yes, another leading flat earther. You know Dell, you're a fan of Dell. Posted a video, mirrored a video that showed this football supposedly with some glitch going on, where it's a 360-degree camera image. But of course, the lying shit of a flat earther that edited it out of that video didn't bother to tell you it was from a 360-degree camera image, and then looking right at the seam between the left and right hand sides of the camera image. So there's a slight glitch in that. They didn't bother to tell you that. They just said it was some glitch and just tried to and gave you the 3 seconds of that. Didn't tell you where it came from, as is synonymous with all of these sort of videos. And it's just dishonesty. There's nothing to suggest a green screen has ever been used anywhere in any of this footage. Not a single thing. And the final point I would make is that the thing you guys always ignore is what techniques would actually be used in movie making. I got Witsit with this one the other day. He told me there was an obvious harness somewhere where somebody's shirt moves slightly or something. But of course, if we actually drew the harness there, we actually put that in the picture where it's claimed to be, and then watch the guy move around, we would see that it couldn't possibly be there. But of course, you don't need it to be there for the rest of it. You only need it to be there for that 3 seconds that you bothered to put in a flat earth video and repeat over and over again. You're the people, it's flat earthers who are faking footage of space, not NASA.
Incorrect. Your incredulity is amazing because it's so easily demonstrable. If you think that harnesses are not removed digitally most of the time,
well, why wouldn't they be
use them for
removed all of the
Avenger
time?
movies? Well, accidents occur. And in those times, that's where we discover these little gems, which we then want to disregard. You must think the Avengers actually perform the stunts that they do and jump across cities like they do.
But look
Because
at the techniques
there's no harness. But you can't show me a harness. So the Avenger must have jumped
you can't show me. But you can't show me 9 minutes of an Avengers movie all shot from one camera, can you? You can't show me probably 10 seconds of an Avengers movie that comes from one camera. But of course, you fucking morons never think about that. It's just an Avengers movie. You never count how many shots there are or where those, how long those shots are, where they're using green screens and things like that. Because you don't give a fuck about how movies are made. You don't give it a thought. It's the 3 seconds with the little glitch in, it must be NASA faking stuff. Don't bother to think about how it would fit into an actual movie, how they would go about doing this. Just make up any old illogical crap that has nothing to do with how film is made. Go ahead.
No, you can't show me a harness in the Avenger movie, so therefore it's not there.
Well, again,
That's
you can't...
applying your logic.
No, it's not.
If
again,
you can't show me a harness in the Avenger movie, they never used a harness in that filmmaking.
That's not true, is it? You have to show me. So we should believe there are harnesses even when we can't see harnesses. We should just believe it because you think we should. What reasons do we actually have to believe there are harnesses? I have reasons to believe there are harnesses in an Avengers movie. People are doing things that aren't possible in an Avengers movie, right? And on top of that, it's an Avengers movie. Nobody's claiming the Avengers movie is real. Right? So what reason do I have to believe anything in an Avengers movie is real and wouldn't deploy whatever filmmaking techniques they need to create the illusion that's occurring in the movie? I don't have any reasons, do I? But I don't have any of those reasons to believe that about what NASA are doing. It's not a movie that people aren't doing things that are impossible in it. Why shouldn't I believe it? Or more to the point, why should I believe it's being hoaxed with no evidence that it's being hoaxed?
Plus, can't you meet people who've worked on the Avengers movie and their name appears in the credits and you can find them?
It's just such a, the argument that there are movies of fictional things, therefore we should assume everything on film is a fictional thing, and that should be our default position, is absurd. There are non-fictional things on film. I don't know where he's gone, but he's gone. I guess. Chemo, anything to say?
Well, I can say
Absolutely.
I can say as a like you can take my word, you can believe me or not, but I'm just going to say it. I used to be a professional software developer. I wrote and dealt with video compression algorithms, and I can say that there's no. Like, I watched dozens of videos of letters claim that all these pixel glitches prove green screen. Like, you know, my professional viewpoint is that this is complete bollocks. These are all compression artifacts. And I can also explain in details and you know, explain why these are compression artifacts and has nothing to do with green screens. These guys, flat earthers, that claim that this is related to green screens have absolutely no idea what they are talking about. They have no idea how video work. They have no idea how compression algorithms work.
Right.
They have no idea how green screen is implemented in software, and this is just complete bullshit, complete just nonsense.
Well, Yossi, you must be a paid NASA globe shill.
Of course.
Yeah, obviously.
Of course.
Because like, for instance, when you see, you know, space in a movie, they build a fucking set. Most of that they aren't hanging from harnesses when they do it. They just film it in such a way that you can't see that they're floating or in actual fact that they're not actually floating. You know?
Yeah, they do a lot to step around it. Like in the what's that one with the belters and all of that? Like they work really hard to limit the amount of time people spend in 0G because it is so expensive to shoot it. Like I've started streaming this. This is my favorite video, and the thing that grabs my attention the whole time is her necklace. So she's going around the ISS, her hair's floating the whole time. She's squirting globs of water and putting them in her mouth, which is just, you know, millions of dollars per second to do in CG. But the whole time she's speaking in this single shot video, her necklace is just like bouncing and jostling around. And it's like, why would you do that? Like, why would you why wouldn't you just shave all of their heads and they don't get to wear any jewelry?
My favorite my favorite blooper from NASA was when our astronaut in peak tried to perform a somersault and he fell off the wires and then stood straight up and said, "Oh, that's not how you do it." I mean, those things.
How do you?
Let's see that video. Let's see
Love to see that video.
What I would like to see, this is the challenge that I would put to flat earthers, is take any of these places where you say a harness is being used, draw in the harness where you think it's being used, and then watch the guy move around and continue to draw in the harness in each position that he's in. And see if you can come up with a coherent way that he could move in the way that he is and still be attached to a harness. And I bet you won't be able to do it ever.
Yeah, John, you see, the problem is that they don't think about that.
I can't believe how you're saying this. They do it in movies.
No,
it looks like there are
don't.
no wires attached to Sandra Bullock whatsoever.
Actually,
Right, but
she
when that happens,
she moves in ways where you would think, oh, there are no wires here.
right, but Chemo,
Superman
if you
flight-
actually watch her do it, you'll see that what you're seeing is 3 or 4 camera shots for a few seconds of footage. And when you see the ISS, that's not happening. It's all from one camera constantly. Even when you see someone taking you on like a 15-minute tour of the space station from a single camera shot, you know, it's just not doable in the same way as it would be in a movie. But what you would do is you would just avoid it. You would say, oh, we can't do a full 9-minute tour because we have to use this special video camera up here. The batteries don't last very long. Or you'd come up with some...
There's an excuse.
some reason why you couldn't do that, and you would just avoid doing it. But they don't. They go off and do it. And you have to ask yourself, if that would be next to impossible to do in a movie, why would they do it?
I want to know how they get the wire. Hang on, Vasily. I want to know how they get the wires off to get into their sleeping bag when they get into their sleeping quarters after going through 3 bulkheads.
Yeah. Like anybody who's done, I've done.
Let Jerry let a response in though, so we're not all piling on. Go ahead, Jerry.
What made me think something funky was going on was when the guy puts his hand through the lemon. I was like, can I do that? And then I tried to do it, and I couldn't do it. And then when the guy put the microphone in Chris Hatfield's neck, I couldn't do that either.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah, I just tried to find that one where he puts the microphone in his neck when he's playing the guitar. Is that the one, Jerry?
I've done.
So this is the one where Tim Peake tries to do a somersault. Have a look at this, Jerry, and he falls down off the wires and then stands back up and is like, "Oh,
where's the wires?"
Could you find me this lemon or microphone one? I'd be interested to see that.
I want to see the actual. Because have you seen the rack that they have to hang those wire harnesses on? Have you seen the size of those things to be able to do what they do?
Who is making all that noise?
Where does he fall off the wires there?
Bad,
It looks like
that was me. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Where does he fall off the wires there? It just looks like it rotates around.
Kimo, do you
Oh.
understand that he have muscles, and using his muscles he can give his body momentum at different times? Do you understand that?
Kimo, where's your
that's
center
my
of gravity
favorite,
on
that's
your
one
body?
of my favorite bloopers, anyway.
Kimo, where's your center of gravity on your body?
That's a gotcha blooper. Okay.
I mean, how is that even? I mean, it's just nothing. It's
Kimo,
just
he stands back up.
Kimo, where's the center of gravity on your body?
That we don't have gravity.
Obvious in that video that he.
Okay, where's the center of mass on your body?
At the center.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's another
Sure,
admission that you
pretend
don't
like I'm
understand
adult for a
physics.
second.
Thank you. That's awesome.
He
Just
falls
so
pretty
doesn't look
slowly and then gets back up and looks like he's bobbing around still.
It doesn't look at all like somebody. If somebody fell
No.
off. The other thing is, if you knew how wire harnesses worked, you've got a specific harness for that thing, which is one on your left hip, one on your right hip. Is it suggest? I mean, it doesn't. I would imagine if they both snapped, he would go face first, planting on the ground. But what's more likely is one would snap and then he would. It doesn't look at all like any
dangle.
Oh no, that's
yeah.
just one wire.
Why on earth?
One wire.
Earth would they publish
How?
that?
Where do you
video?
put the one? Where do you put the one wire, Chemo?
So
Where's
they-
he attached by one wire?
That wasn't a live stream video, so why on earth would they publish that if it was something that went wrong? Like that,
They would have edited out the blooper, wouldn't they? And not
absolutely.
published it?
Like that would not
No,
have been
it looks-
published. That's
Oh, that
not
was
a
live.
live.
That was on the
live.
news. That was live on the news here in England.
It looks like it is live. It looks like he's got an audience there and they're streaming
Still, I
down
mean,
to an
like,
audience here somewhere.
So they live green screened out the wires while he was talking on the news live to your broadcast. Do you know how much computing power that requires?
And then he fell down and stood back up.
I mean, it looks like he goes to do a backflip and then, like, sort of as he flips, gets closer to the ground and then stands back up. I don't see him falling. Certainly not at 9.8 meters per second.
Seems like there's a center of gravity issue instead of a mishap of gravity issue.
I think that Kimo just have a problem with the idea that muscles can work in Mikogabi. That's what I think.
I think yeah, I agree. I think it's that they just don't understand how things work.
Yeah, it's generally a failure to understand.
Oh, here's Darkstar. What's up, Darkstar?
No, do not engage Darkstar unless he's going to make someone cry.
Jeremy, what's the name of that
Okay.
astronaut that
Okay,
does that?
fuck
with
you,
the microphone?
Darkstar. Shut up.
Forget his name. He's the one with the moustache.
I think this is the Chemo show. I don't want to interrupt anyone.
Chris Hatfield.
Chris Hatfield.
Yeah,
That's the
it
one.
is. Yeah, Chris
Or what
Hadfield
might
has
have happened is-
he's got a lot of awesome videos.
Yeah, and his brother's in Metallica.
Is he really?
No.
Oh, come on, it'd be a great conspiracy.
Are you a flat earther? Because only for Earth's lie. Come on.
Yeah, but hang on, if Chris Hetfield was his brother, that'd be awesome.
It would be awesome.
I reckon that's shallow.
So what is it I'm supposed to be seeing in this, Jerry? I just see a man grabbing a lemon.
It's interesting.
Because of the
It's a compression artifact. Where's the chat?
I see it.
Where's
I see
the
it.
Israeli
Oh
sounding
yeah, this was a
chat?
good one, Jerry, as well. Yeah, and go straight through it.
Yossi wants the source of that actual GIF there.
So
Jerry.
you think that's like a
Compression artifact.
a failure of NASA to edit their videos properly? Like, what do
Yes,
what do you think that is?
I personally don't have opinion about videos if I don't have the source. Usually, like
Yeah, we should always get the source as well, just to
We
make
never
sure
do.
it's actually there.
Yeah.
And
Particularly because the
doing-
number of them that I've come up with from flat earthers, like is showing the Tesla car supposedly quote unquote in its green screen, is so clearly deceptively edited.
Right.
Yeah, like
Absolutely.
make it look like it's 2 frames. It's like, no, they hold on that for 5 seconds. You've just been
That's-
hoodwinked by your
that's-
own team
that's-
here.
That's why the group exists. Got to lie to Flurf, because the only way to be a flat earther is to lie.
Right. That's true.
I've been having to Google so much stuff about Civilization 6 that when I just Google astronaut catches oranges, it wanted to suggest that probably I want to finish with the suggestion Civ 6. Like, no, I don't think that happens in Civ 6.
I think it's a lemon, isn't it?
It does when you play as the US and you start the space race.
Well, I'm Canadian, so I built up a giant
Oh.
army to go and attack other people because I was like, I need a bit more land, I need more cities to get more research. I tried to attack, and it's like, no, you're too polite. You can't start wars. You can only respond to them. My God, the trolling is strong.
Yeah, Civ 6.
So
has got a
basically,
weird political system.
that's why Solar and me and others, myself, don't trust NASA because of these things that you guys make
No, they're
excuses for.
not. That's not true, Chemo. You don't
Make
trust NASA, and then you
excuses
look for these
for-
things.
Yeah, that's true. That is what happens.
I mean,
Make
the amount of
excuses
bubbles in
for it.
space.
Come on, man.
You need NASA to be liars.
you don't
go
have-
out and find ways for them to be called liars.
Bingo. There are no bubbles in space. What you see in space is it's material. It's solid material, and they have to be bubbles to you in order to for your fantasy to persist.
Yeah,
It-
bubbles
that's-
going in
that's-
different directions.
Yes,
Not
all up.
bubbles in water do not go in different directions. They all go in the same direction.
But Dresden,
But-
here's
but
their
you-
conundrum.
you-
Hang on, Dresden. Just hang on a sec. They keep saying, "Oh, it's super cold in space," and then we say, "Yes, it's ice particles and frozen carbon or whatever," right? Oh, but you can't because space is fake, and they hand wave the lot.
But then they also tell you that space is too hot. And then
Where does
and
the
then
ice come
and then they tell you that they understand how buoyancy works.
Where does the ice
And
come
if-
from,
but,
Davros?
if they understand how buoyancy works, they would understand
Think
that
about that
bubbles would work the same way in outer space that they do on Earth. And so just the whole thing just destroys their whole rhetoric.
I like this one. They've got harness time, and this guy's going past, and they're like, it's clearly wearing a hip harness and a knee harness.
Oh, I gotta watch your stream.
Like, you can just
There you go.
lean forward. Why would you need a knee harness to lean forward? The whole point of those wire work harnesses is that you can tip forwards and backwards without. It's funny. Harness time.
Well, I mean, this is one of the only ways that they're going to be able to show zero gravity, right? Have to do.
But
something.
this is how it always is, though. It's never like a coherent idea of actually what's going on, is there? You know.
Yeah. 90% of it is asking questions and then proposing that their one answer is correct. Well, how can you do that? And you're like, I don't know.
That's what
Therefore,
we've been
it's harnesses.
pointing out. Yeah, we're pointing that out right now.
The explanation
not
is
actually
how do they
addressing
fake
it.
space, and this is how they fake it.
No,
yeah, you
you're
ask the
not.
question, how do they fake space? But you don't. This is not a very compelling answer.
Considering the fact that space is fake, they can just make up anything with what they say, and try and claim it as being true.
Quote, considering the fact that space is fake. That's just a huge leap. Yeah, it's just lovely.
Space is fake.
Oh, okay.
There's no such place as a vacuum space.
It's a bit of a misnomer. I think most people agree.
You can have rockets flying around a vacuum.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about propulsion in zero G.
How are you going to have propulsion in zero gravity?
How do you have propulsion? How do you have propulsion in 1G?
No, in a vacuum is what I'm describing.
How do you have propulsion in 1G?
How do you have it in a vacuum in space?
How do you have propulsion in 1G?
How do you have a propulsion in space?
He didn't say atmosphere.
Space.
How do you have propulsion in 1G versus 0G?
How would you have...
Dude, we can go back and forth on this constantly.
Right. So
how does propulsion work in 0G?
You said let's discuss how propulsion would work in space. How does it work in space?
It works because there's an oxygen.
Laws to stop working.
Huh?
How do you get Newton's laws to stop working in space?
Well, considering space is fake.
That's a really good question.
Anything that you say.
That's not fake. That's a great assertion.
Assuming
Newton's laws stop working, this is a place that doesn't exist.
That's a wonderful, unproven assertion you just made. Now answer my fucking question. How do you get Newton's laws to stop working in a vacuum? Show it to me.
Where's their vacuum?
There's no
What now?
vacuum. They wouldn't work.
Put shit in a vacuum and show me Newton's laws will stop working in a vacuum.
How do
please.
you know that vacuum is the same as what
I have a
in
question.
space?
Can I ask you a question?
Show
please?
it to us.
Can I ask you a question? Flurfies? Let's assume you're in a vacuum, okay? And there's no atmosphere, right? Let's say you have a ball that weighs the same as you do. If you throw that ball in front of you, what happens to you?
In space, nothing.
Nothing would happen to you if you threw a ball away from you while you're in zero gravity, mind you.
My guess is I go equally in the opposite direction to the ball, equally in comparison to how much the ball weighs versus how much I weigh.
Demonstrate.
Okay. Sorry, how much mass I have versus how much mass
so
is that right?
So
is that a guess?
Who said nothing? Who said nothing?
Chemo.
Yeah, nothing would happen.
Chemo. If you did the same thing on Earth, let's say you're sitting in an office chair and you threw a ball away from you, what would happen to you?
What, in the air or on the ground?
It doesn't matter. If you throw a ball away from you, if you're sitting in an office chair, let's assume the office chair, the coefficient of friction of the wheels of the office chair is 0. And you throw a ball away from you that is the same mass as you, what happens to you in the office chair?
I'm going to go the opposite direction.
So why wouldn't you expect the same thing to happen in a vacuum?
Well, that only happens because you're on the floor. You got the surface to push off.
Yeah, but you have nothing in the atmosphere to push off. Like that doesn't make any sense.
So
the only thing the floor is doing to you is pushing upward. If you throw a ball tangential to the floor and you fly back from the ball, the force that you're exerting on yourself is tangential to the floor.
What?
So why does the floor have anything to do with you going backward from the ball that you throw?
Because without the surface, there is no pressure.
We're not talking about pressure. There's nothing to do with pressure here.
It is. You need surfaces.
No, there's absolutely there's
floor.
nothing to do with pressure here. This is an experiment in physics. And so for you to grab a ball,
physical contact. So
Okay, so let's say you're on the floor. Let's say you're sitting in a chair in a vacuum on the floor, and you throw a ball. What happens?
You'd be dead.
You would have the floor.
Assuming he has an oxygen tank that he can breathe from.
You've got the surface of the floor. Yes, you would move. But without the floor...
You see, this is why I cannot have a reasonable discussion with a flat earther, because you generally do not understand physics and how they work.
How do you know?
We're told that a lot, but without the demonstration, it proves that you don't know what
without a demonstration, you just don't understand. You don't understand. Period.
What, your imagination?
It's not my imagination. It's what would happen legitimately.
Objects flying around in a vacuum.
Oh, Christ.
You honestly haven't given
Give me the link. You don't have to get it.
Just as many.
Give me the name and I'll
what do you mean
search
show
it.
you?
I'll search it for you. You're having What's the name of the object flying around in a vacuum?
We can show you more video of that than you'll have time to watch it the rest of your life, Chemo.
How do you know that the vacuum
Every space
here
agency in the world
on Earth is the same as what's supposedly up in space?
If you guys don't mind,
I don't give a fuck. You're the one that made the assertion shit doesn't work in a vacuum. Now show it to me.
Chemo was having a conversation with the other guy.
It's completely fine.
Okay, all right. I was just trying to say.
It's completely.
I'm not sure where the rest of these people's point is, but I would love if this guy actually made a point before you.
Okay, Dryden, let's get back to it. You're making claims about a vacuum. You have all this movement of Newton's laws. Do you have a demonstration of that?
What I don't understand is why you think that you would be able to move. Like if you're sitting in an office chair on Earth and you throw a ball away from you that is equal mass to you in the office chair and you move backwards, why would that not equate to the same sort of movement if you're in a vacuum in outer space?
Got the floor. You're not listening. The floor.
The only thing the floor is doing is imposing a normal force and a friction force on you, preventing you from moving backwards. That's the only thing the floor is doing. Have you ever drawn a free body diagram of anything in your life?
Have you ever done a demonstration to back up your claims?
Do you know what a free body diagram is?
You know what an experiment is?
I know. Yes, I do. Apparently, you don't.
Okay, so let's do an experiment to back up your.
How about you draw a free body diagram?
Drawing is for kids. Let's do an experiment.
No, why don't you draw me a free body diagram?
Drawings are for children.
No, I don't care.
How old are you? 13.
You draw me a free body diagram of somebody
I'm not
in an office
draw you a little drawing. We're going to do
science. It's because you refuse to do this because you know it blows your
I'm sure a little drawing will blow my mind, but science will blow it even more.
This is science, my friend.
Not a little drawing on a piece of paper.
No, you refuse to accept it because
it's a piece of paper with a little drawing on it. Yeah.
Oh no, because you're a pedantic piece of shit.
That's why you will not.
That's why you will not do this.
Yeah, I'm not going to do a little painting.
It's a free body diagram, and it is very, very simple to do. But you will refuse to do it.
Absolutely,
but that's okay.
I'm not going to do drawings little children do.
Okay.
He doesn't know how.
He doesn't know what
He doesn't know how.
He doesn't know what a free body diagram is.
You don't know what an experiment is.
No,
that's
right.
I know very well what an experiment is. Apparently, you don't.
I'm not an artist. You're not a scientist.
Do you know what a free body diagram is, my friend?
An experimentist.
I know what an experiment is. Do you know what a free body diagram is? Do you know what a free body diagram is?
Yes, I know what a drawing is. What is an experiment?
Do you know what a free body diagram is?
I just told you yes. What is an experiment?
Do you know what a free explain it to me? Do you know what a free body diagram is?
Now I'm asking you.
This is getting
explain.
Do you know what a free body diagram is?
He doesn't know what one is. He doesn't know what one is. Don't ask him.
I do know what one is. I've just said.
Okay, what? Okay, tell him what one is.
But I asked him first. Yes.
A free body diagram is the diagram of a mass that shows all of the forces that are acting upon it.
Okay. What is an experiment?
An experiment is a controlled experiment. It's an experiment. I mean, what do you want me to tell you about it?
Walk me through it. What's the first step?
You need a hypothesis,
No.
and
that's not the first step.
No. Okay, why don't you enlighten me, Mr. Flat Earther?
Okay,
enlighten
you
me.
observed phenomena.
Since I'm so dumb, I don't even know what a free body
That's your
diagram
second
is.
step. So you've got your first step is your observed phenomena. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what is your observed phenomena? What do you observe in nature?
You've got your observed phenomena. Yeah.
So what is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Things falling. Like
this is just an effort for you to degrade anything that is proposed against you. So why don't you draw? Why don't you draw?
You observe things falling in nature.
We've already talked about this. We don't need to rehash it. Rehashing it is only just an effort for you to take to take away from the point that's being made. So we've already talked about this. Let's move on.
What?
Considering the fact that you've been totally destroyed about 4 times, Dresden, how about you give
I
somebody
have
else
not.
a
I
chance?
have. I mean, that's cute that you think that. Great.
So what should we move on
Tino's
to?
wipe the floor with you. Now let somebody else have a chance to chat to him. You don't have to hog the mic. You've lost. Take it in the chin like a man.
That's hilarious. Okay. Why don't you and I have a go, sexy username?
How have you lost? That's funny.
I would love to know how I've lost it. Please
you
explain
can't
to me.
even tell what an experiment is. He has
Who
to get
cares?
demoted from him.
I tell you how I think you could have done better, Dresden. I think that when you come into these sort of arguments with flat earthers, you have to work. If you're going to work with them, you've got to work from their position, which is that nothing that you think is true, and it could be any basic, simple fact about reality. It could be all of history. It could be anything. You cannot assume anything to be true and that they will just agree with it. The sky is blue. They will not agree with that.
What causes shadows? They wouldn't agree. They wouldn't agree that something obstructing something causes shadow.
You've got nothing on the table to work from. You've got no foundation at all. And then the other thing. Hang on, let me get this one out. The other thing is that whatever you say, every single thing you say, you are going to be challenged on. So you need to have some way of responding to that challenge. And it's best to preempt it. Say, I'm making this claim. Here is my evidence that supports this claim.
The sky is not blue.
And that's why I said, and that's why I said, it felt like you'd turned up to this fight unarmed. It was a bit like that,
The thing is, because we don't make claims, Preston. That's very important. You're the one making all the wild, outrageous claims.
Do you see? That's the funny thing is, you do make claims. You make plenty of claims.
I mean, one of their most common claims is we don't make claims. And when you hear that, you should celebrate, because generally speaking, when you hear we don't make claims, you're going to be within 1 or 2 minutes of them making a claim. They will definitely do it, absolutely. And you just have to. That's how I spend my lifetime here these days, mostly, is just waiting for them to make a claim, and then I pounce. and that's often, I think, where you get them, because they constantly make claims, but they all think that they don't. And their strategy is to not do, but of course they fuck up all the time.
Well, Jem, I don't know when you joined, but there was a point when I tried to make him make claims through a series of questioning, during which he refused to answer the majority of my questions.
Yeah, because he knows where you were gonna, you were trying to corner him onto something.
See, that's the funny thing about when they encounter somebody who knows more about physics and fluid dynamics and things than what they do, is their lifeline is to just backpedal and to just avoid everything entirely. That's the only play
even
that
if
they
you
have.
know about all of these, still safer and wiser not to make any. Especially when you're talking to a ball earther. If I'm talking to flat earthers, you'll probably hear all kinds of ideas about what we think and how it works.
That's hilarious that you say that, because it's when you say it's safer to not make a claim, that just means that you know that your opinion is bullshit.
Oh no, it just means
right. It does mean that.
It does. It just means that we're not about to say something.
When you refuse to make a claim, it means that you know that your position is wrong.
We're being honest. We're not about to make a model.
No.
That's what they like to claim, that this is an intellectually honest position, because we just can't know these things. But of course, we can know these things.
I love it. I love it when people say, "I'm not a flat earther," but no, you are a flat earther. And you're gonna.
I am a flat earther. We are flat earthers. But
no. I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm just talking in general.
We don't have a model. We're proud to say we don't have.
You don't have a model because you can't model nothing.
Oh, you're not really proud to say that, are you? In fact, many of you spent years trying to come up with a model, and some of you still claim that there is one, or it's not perfect, but it's the best we've got. You're not actually proud to say that. It was what you had to say when actually trying to come up with one didn't work.
Plus, to add to that, flat is a model. Containment is a model. They've started on their model. They just try to run away from that position anytime it gets pointed out and tested. But to say, to give a description of a shape, to say finite or infinite, to say contained, you've already started on the model. It's just, they don't want to accept that.
I'm not trying to interrupt, but I will be back in a little bit. I have to run for just a few minutes.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. Exposing your lies.
Totally destroyed you got.
How can I get oil if I can't go to war with people? Like,
Kimo, you said that the first step in an experiment is observation, right?
Not just observation. There has to be something that is questionable in nature.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the first step in an experiment. Can you provide citation for that?
Sorry?
Can you provide a citation for that?
I probably could. I'd have to do it, but not now. But I will find one.
No, because I rest assure you that you are wrong.
Really? Why? How?
Yeah, because the first step in an experiment is not an observed phenomenon. It might be the first step in the scientific method.
I just said.
No, the scientific method is not an experiment.
I just said the scientific method. You
Oh,
make
it is to
an
them.
observation.
That's all it is to them.
No.
It's just an experiment.
You asked what is the first step in an experiment, and you said this is the observed phenomena.
Oh, an experiment.
And this statement is wrong. You're just wrong. And this is what you told the resident. So I'm just, Yeah.
Yeah, in order to have an experiment, you what?
A question.
No.
Yes. You need a question. As in, how does this work? Why does that happen?
No.
Isn't it a white coat? Is white coat first or second?
No, hang on. I want Kimi to explain why you wouldn't ask a question before even coming up with a hypothesis.
An observation.
No, you didn't answer my question. I said, why wouldn't you ask a question?
About what?
Anything.
About a shoe?
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's not science.
And what if you've never seen a shoe before?
Still doesn't make it science.
What?
Still not science.
No. I'm talking about asking the question before making the hypothesis. If you don't have the question, what's the point in the hypothesis, mate?
What about? You see a shoe, and what?
Why are you always doing science on shoes, Kimo?
I don't know. I think he hasn't got any shoes.
Davros says you can do science on shoes. This is the whole point. He's being ridiculous.
Can do science on shoes.
What?
They've already invented
We
them.
could do science on shoes.
There is no science on a.
Why not?
No
I'd ask
cause and effect.
Nike about that.
There's no cause and effect relationship.
Yeah, there is.
Cause
shoe-
of onions, cause of fractures,
Yeah,
cause
or
of people to run faster.
the shoe wears out. The shoe wears out. The sole of the shoe wears out. There is a cause of this. I want to investigate what the cause is of this wearing out shoe.
Yeah,
I want to get better shoes.
Why can't I investigate that?
That nature causing that?
Yes.
Like what?
Walking.
Nature is
Well, all of it
the
occurs
entirety
in
of the natural
nature.
world.
All of it occurs in nature. So why is it not nature?
What I'm asking, what issue?
The shoe is worn in nature by a person who lives in nature, who is a natural product of nature. I don't.
They think that nature is some gorilla.
Yeah, I know what they think.
This
I
is
know
what
what they think, dude. I know what they think. But go ahead. Why is this?
I can't see.
Why is it not nature?
I'm trying to figure out where the science. There is no science. No natural
How
cause.
is what I've described? Why would that not be science?
Well, what's the natural cause to the shoe wearing now?
We don't know. That's why we're doing the
Go on
science.
then, hypothesize. What's the predicted cause?
The predicted cause is the friction of the sole of the shoe on the surface, the ground surface.
Right, where do you see friction in nature?
When people wear shoes on ground.
No, that's man doing. Where in nature do you?
How is man not in nature? Where's that not nature?
How do you describe nature, Chemo? Is nature just trees and shit? Because nature in science just means the entire natural world, including rubbers and shoes and dildos and stuff.
That shoe.
Hold on. Let me look. My man's out. He's gone rambling. The man I'm observing wearing the shoes. He's rambling in nature.
Well, let's say we put that shoe.
Does that help? Does that help at all?
No. Let's put the shoe in its box that it came in. Will it ever get worn out?
Wait, hang on. Shouldn't we take it back to the sweatshop
No.
it was made in, Chemo?
I don't think it. Well, we could test to see if it wears out in the box. That would be a good test, actually, wouldn't it? We should include that in an
Shoe's not
experiment.
going to get worn out.
That can be our control, Chemo. Well done.
Like I said,
now
the
it's an
shoe-
experiment.
We'll have one shoe that is worn, and we'll test how much by a person, and we'll see how much wear and tear is on the sole, and then we'll have one shoe that is not worn, and we'll see what the wear and tear is on that sole. And my hypothesis is that the shoe that is worn will have the worn sole.
Well, I mean, I've never heard of a shoe wearing out in it.
No, I haven't either. That's why I have
control.
formulated this hypothesis.
Actually, the rubber can rip in some box and it can rust rot.
We know the cause to the effect, which is man. End up.
Not all experiments are
Actually-
about cause and effect, Chemo.
All of them
Hang
are.
on, you
Only-
didn't talk
only
about the
cause and effect.
No, they're
surface
not.
that you were walking on.
If it's
That's a
not
lie,
cause and effect,
Chemo.
call it-
Not
it's
all
trial-
experiments are about cause and effect. That's just nonsense.
About trial and error if it's not cause and effect.
No, it's not. There are things called measurements. We can do an experiment to measure something.
Flat
That's not an
earthers don't
experiment,
think
that's a
measurements are
measurement.
science. They adhere to the QE school of logic, where only one thing is an experiment, and it's what QE's never done.
So you guys need
Apparently,
to brush up
a
on your
ruler-
science.
So
Apparently a
what if
ruler is
my
not
man?
scientific.
What if my man, when he's out, barefoot, he takes his bow and arrow, shoots a passing cow, skins it, and tans the leather, and forms the leather into shoe-shaped items, which he then puts on his feet?
What's that?
Is well, yeah, but where did the nature? When did it stop being nature?
When man is not involved.
What?
What?
You've got the strangest idea about what nature is.
Apparently, we're not nature.
Is medicine science, chemo? Like, if somebody comes up with a drug for a disease, do they need to do science to get there, or because that's a man, is that not science?
What was the observed phenomena?
It's a question. I asked you a
had
question.
a headache.
If you could answer that, I'll happily answer yours.
If there's no observed phenomena, no, not science.
Was finding penicillin science?
So your suggestion is that pharmacology and medicine is not a science.
What is this? Walk me through. What are they doing at science?
I'm not able to walk you through it. I'm asking you a question.
How do you know then if it's science or not?
Did you that?
We're asking about something that you
gobsmacked.
don't know whether
I'm
it's
struggling
science
to
or not.
struggling to comprehend how anybody could answer that
We're asking
question.
about everything.
Science, the
Engineering,
idea
science.
of coming
Am I
up
reading
with
a book?
drugs.
Is that
We know
science? If you
what
don't
I'm
know
talking
if it's
about,
science
right?
or not in the first place.
Drugs solve problems we've
I'll go
got.
fishing.
Right?
Is that science?
Fishing doesn't seem to me like science. No,
Right,
I mean,
so-
I think in a broad definition, almost everything is science. Knowing where I can catch fish, what lures will catch which fish. I think in a broad definition,
is
it's
that science?
Say again.
We're talking on the computer now. Is that science?
I could teach you the science of fishing if you want, mate.
Oh, mate, if you're anywhere near Sydney, I'd love that. I need to get out more.
Oh, damn it. Well, unfortunately, you closed the fucking borders, didn't you?
So none of this is science unless you have an experiment. Measurements are not experiments.
I'm not talking about measurements or science. I'm trying to understand this idea that you have about it's got to be the natural world and cannot have a human in it. Seemingly humans are unnatural. That's the bit I'm trying to ask you about. So is medicine on humans, is that not science?
Medicine on plants. How is that science?
Well, medicine doesn't just come from plants, but any form of medicine, even if it's coming up with an MRI, right? And then doing an MRI. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Where we go, I wonder if we can take a photo of the insides of people using magnetic or radioactive dyes or whatever the fuck they do. I don't know. I don't understand that shit.
Test to find out if you can or not. Trial and error.
Okay, would that be that? But that wouldn't be science.
That's
then.
not science. You trial. You wonder about something. Can I do this?
Hang on, you said test it.
Let me test and try and error. If I can't, try again.
It's so
a test isn't science. Okay.
No, the test is not science. No.
How does that work? But isn't an experiment a test?
Yeah. What's the difference between an experiment and a test,
You're trialing, and there's going to be errors.
You just keep saying the same.
But can't that happen in an experiment? Can't you have lots of failed experiments?
That's where you have a null hypothesis.
Right.
And a predicted cause.
Right.
In what way is that make material?
But how does giving it a name of null hypothesis? How does giving the failure a name? How does that help you in any way?
There's no wonder here. You have a predicted cause. It either is or it isn't.
Well, that's wondering, isn't it? I wonder if this will be the cause.
That's your hypothesis. Then
right.
that's
so there is wondering there, then, isn't there?
Yeah, but that's the point. That's not.
But you
science.
just said there wasn't. So
wondering is not science, is it? On its own, you need an experiment.
Right, but you're describing your experiment, and it starts with wondering.
No, you start with an observed phenomenon.
Right. Okay. Then what? Then you do the wondering.
Then you predict the cause.
Right. So that's when you wonder what the cause is.
Yeah, you kind of figure out what's going on. But
Right.
if you stop there, then that's
with
not
you, Jim.
science. The next step is now to manipulate your predicted cause.
Hang on. Hang on. You're stepping us through the scientific method, but you said just after we make the hypothesis and wonder about it, it's not science yet because we haven't done the experiment. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because you guys start with the wondering.
Oh, fuck's sake.
That's not science.
Well, it's not true either, is it?
What somebody wonders now?
Well, how could you wonder about anything that you hadn't experienced?
No, you just wonder without seeing anything.
How?
Well,
how is that
possible?
possible?
What spaces?
How could I wonder about something that I haven't experienced?
We haven't experienced the moon. We don't know what that is. We haven't experienced the stars.
I experience the moon every night. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but you don't experience...
Yeah, that's it. That's experiencing it.
But what is it? Don't know.
It doesn't matter. It's not the point. We're talking about experiencing things, right?
But you still wonder what it is.
Right.
We got a few hundred.
But I can
kilograms
only
of it,
wonder.
Kimo.
I
We
can
know what
only
it is.
wonder what something is if I've experienced it. It's not possible to wonder about the nature of something that I have no thought exists. How could I?
Yeah, but just because you see something doesn't mean it is what you
I
think.
I can't think. What are the properties of this thing that I'm not thinking about?
Yeah, but the point is that you're just wondering without the science.
You got there pretty badly, Chemo.
Well, that's the
I don't
idea.
see.
Is that we're
I
starting
don't
with
see the difference. I don't see the difference between what you say is trial and error and what when exactly the same thing could occur with a series of scientific experiments to lead you to a conclusion.
Can I build a television?
That would also be trial and error.
No. Can I build a television? So let me think. I would need. What do I need now to make this work? Make this television work. This is not science. That means I have to get this part and put it with this part. Does that work? No. Let me take another part. Oh, right. I get a signal. That's how trial and error works. Difference to science.
That's
What
electronic
nonsense.
science.
Because that's how TVs were made. They just got like loads of random electronic components and just paired them together to see which ones worked.
They used a breadboard.
That's how they came up with TV.
If you want a pair of roller skates, you think, well, that wheel.
You think people just sat and stuck stuff together until they got a television set to work?
Well, like a bicycle. How many
you think it actually happens?
Well, how many televisions do we have? Different types of televisions.
I want to know how they get the 8 million transistors on my CPU.
Why did we have widescreen televisions back when they first made them?
Well, that took
They
some
just
trial
whacked
and
them
error,
on.
didn't it?
Exactly. Same with the bicycle.
Kimo, you're a clown, mate.
Same with the car.
Seriously.
There's no science in this. Trial. Does this work? No, it doesn't. Let's try something else.
Oh my God.
And that's how your
I
model.
bet you they just.
That's how
I
your
bet you
model
they just
works.
used. Hang on.
Oh,
First
trial and
thermal
error.
paste was
So
peanut
you
butter, and they
you
went, "Oh
tried
no,
to
that
make
doesn't
a
work."
Earth this size, and said, "Okay, let's put the sun here." That doesn't work. Let's try. There's no science, no measurements here at all. Just that doesn't work. Let's try something else. Let's how far are the stars? Let the one light year. Oh no, that doesn't work. Let's try another distance. Oh yeah, that's why you say we have a working model now, because we've tried for 500 years to fix this model. We tried that distance, that didn't work, and now you have what you think is a working model. No science involved.
I think you'd agree, Chemo, you have a fairly restrictive definition of science. Where did you get it from? From whence comes this particular definition of science?
It comes through doing experiments, testing.
No, the definition. Where did you get this definition? Because I think you would agree that we're at odds here on what the definition of science is, and we're suggesting to you that's
university, colleges.
Could you present to me a university or college that says that science is only experiments and that computers are not science? Could you show me where you get this from?
No,
please?
I couldn't do that now. No.
Why not?
No, I
Why
bet
do you
you
think
couldn't.
that would be? Why would it be? Why would you not be able
do some
to?
research, do some digging.
Because the daft idea emanates from one person on the internet. That's why.
It sounds like it just comes from QE.
Exactly.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, QE does bring it up, but I mean, this is all from the university.
Oh, well, these definitions don't sound like what you're saying. An intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment.
And experiment.
But hang on, I'm not there yet. A systematically organized body of knowledge on a particular subject. Yeah.
It sounds like that would include measurements.
Mm-hmm.
Measurements are not science.
I know that's just you reasserting your case, but we've now added some more data, so you need to now give something more than just reasserting your case.
Yeah, I'm not.
Davros has destroyed your case by giving you a definition from somewhere. You're saying it comes from these places. He's gone and found it from those places and shown that it doesn't say that. Just reasserting your case shows us that you know you've lost.
I mean, I definitely get the I mean, they're definitely there. It's just I didn't realise we were going to discuss this, but this is the order of the scientific method.
You missed out on the word encompassing.
Just said a bunch of funny words then.
Yeah, you missed out on the word encompassing. It was the sixth word in the definition.
It was
not difficult to get, but obviously I didn't realise we were discussing the scientific method.
Kim, I thought you had the facts and the figures and the statistics. Where are they now?
We've got them all. We've got all the facts.
But you don't have them now, do you?
Not now.
Hang on, Chemo.
Yeah.
Chemo, quickly,
would you be willing to adjust, based on this new data, would you be willing to adjust your view of what science is and maybe agree that what you're talking about is just experiments, a sort of subset of science?
If you can demonstrate that, yes, for sure.
He did just now. It's a word. Words, I think you'd agree if I said, the word I use when I talk about science is pumpkin, we would go, well, that's ridiculous. That's not what anybody else means when they say pumpkin. And when you say pumpkin to me, I don't think science. So science is a kind of shared thing. And it sounds like you've got a few people in a room saying our shared definition of science is different to yours. You could possibly bring us around to your view, or you could change yours. Would you be willing to change yours based on us showing you that this is not the case, is not what people think when they say science?
Absolutely. If you have a demonstration, other than just your opinion, I would actually definitely.
Sure. What would one need to demonstrate? Describe to me what an adequate demonstration of a definition of a word would be.
But if you have a claim about how something works, provide a demonstration so we can take a look at that.
But we're talking about science
of a word
and what
now.
it means right now.
It's not. We don't define words through experimentation, do we?
How do we know what you're talking about?
Exactly. That's why we've got to discuss it together. That's why words like awful evolve, because the collective meaning of the word used to mean wonderful and now it means terrible. So the words evolve, right, through collective usage. What's your reason for using this definition that nobody else shares? Or could you show us that a lot of people share this view?
Again, I wouldn't go with consensus. I would go with what we can practically demonstrate.
Practically demonstrate the meaning of a word. Are we talking the same language right now, Chemo? You don't practically demonstrate the meaning of a word.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If we're just going to talk about words, then we'll be here all day. Trying to validate these words with a demonstration. So we're not just talking words.
Well, writing, hang on a second. This is where the argument went with you, was the definition of science. And you couldn't explain a different word for encompassing, which basically means including things, or in addition to what was already described. You just said, because it's got the word experiment in it, that must be science.
Well, it told you it's observation.
Yeah, encompassing those things.
Do you guys mind bringing the definition of pseudoscience? That might help clear the difference that you guys are having.
Sure, define pseudoscience. That'd be great.
Chemo is pseudoscience.
Well, pseudoscience is a set of beliefs mistaken for the scientific.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, accurate.
Right. So without the experiment, which you guys do not have, an independent variable, then this is what we consider pseudoscience.
Right, but you're not able to define science correctly, so it'd be kind of difficult to define a word that has science in it with a prefix.
Per the definition of Davros.
What, the fact that you keep saying that your science is based on the scientific method?
Yeah, experiment.
Yeah, that's pseudoscience there, right? If you read the definition...
Davros's definition?
No, I'm saying that the definition of science is that it includes an experiment. Without an experiment, it's not science.
So you don't accept Davros's definition then? Because he used
he doesn't.
Observation as well as experiment.
It's observation and experiment.
Yeah, but also the study of physical things.
Observation or experiment.
Hang on, what part of study of physical did you not understand?
Physical, yes.
The study of.
Right.
Didn't say anything about, like, the first 6 words. Didn't say anything about testing.
So what is an experiment, Davros?
No, I'm not talking about the second half of that definition. I'm talking about the first half, where it's the study of the physical world encompassing observations.
How are you going to do all that?
Lifes become like NPCs. When you get them on a difficult topic, they just turn into NPCs and keep repeating this nonsensical thing that they said all that. Just keeps going, but hang on, but experiment, but how can you demonstrate, but experiment?
On a second. Let me just get this out. Davros, you just said studying of the physical something, right? Davros, you just told Ryan to stop talking so you could make your point. Now you've stopped talking.
I didn't. Hey.
You did. You said, hold on, I've got this riding. Let me have this.
Yeah, that was 3 minutes ago.
All right. So now the first part says study. How are you going to do all of this?
Study? You can just look at things to study them.
Look at them. Observation. Yeah. Okay. And then now what? What's next,
Davros? You could read some data or some research.
Does it say data in that definition?
Hey, I wasn't finished.
Okay, go on.
You could read some data that someone's already done on a similar thing. Mm-hmm. So it's not even an observation; it's just reading data.
Mm-hmm. And then what do you have to do next? Observation and.
Oh no! You've got to come up with a question first.
But you've just read the definition, Davros. Want to read it again?
No. Come back to me.
Yes, right? You started with the first part said study of the physical world.
I already told you. Right. I already gave you that first bit. And then I said, next is a question. What's the question I'm going to ask?
Yeah, because you've just studied the physical world, yeah?
Oh, no. I just said I studied some data that related to what I'm going to look into.
Right, let's have a look.
Come on. It's hypothetical, dude. What the fuck is wrong with you?
I'm changing the definition, Davros.
You don't know how to have a conversation.
It's not a definition of the scientific method. It's a definition for science. It's more general than you're making out right now. It's not a series of steps like the scientific method. That's not the definition you read out.
Yeah, I'm talking about how you want to discover something, how you want to find a way to even get to your fucking hypothesis before you even get there. And you're going, scientific method.
Did you post the definition or read it? I thought you posted it.
Wow, you're...
Okay.
You got the mind of an infant.
So you said it's got systematic observation, measurements, experiments, and testing, and modification of hypothesis. So where are these things that you're aiming to know and do?
I didn't say that. My definition didn't say that.
What did your definition?
No, I'll keep my definition, my secret knowledge now.
Not yet.
Because it's different to yours.
You want to hand it back to Ride on Eggshells now then?
Oh, why? Why? Because you can't continue this conversation? Cool. Yeah, go for it, Riding. Take him on.
Okay, so let's try again. Your definition for science said the intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world. How do we do this? Through observation and experiment.
Sure, yeah, that could be both of those ways would work. Observation, yeah.
Understand
which would include measurement. Yeah.
Clear.
So why would it say observation and experimentation if it was only experimentation, which sounds like it's your position, Chemo?
No,
or are you including that observation is... No, Chemo, let me finish. It sounds like your position is it's only experimentation. If you are not doing an experiment with all of your QE kind of talking points, why does it say observation and experimentation? Why does it say two of these things rather than just through experimentation?
And experiment. Your
sure,
first
it does.
step
it's
in
both.
the scientific
can
method
be either.
Is observation, then hypothesis, then experiment.
So why doesn't it say what you're saying? Why does it clearly say that you can do it through observation?
I've just told you. You've got to have
because
observation.
he's reading a QE Google note, one of his emails.
Let me post the definition.
Sure, that'd help.
that would. Davros, I thought he posted it, read it, and now he's afraid. Personal definition. So this is the intellectual, practical thread, encompassing the structure and behavior of the physical and natural. That's why we say the natural world. They have to have an observation. Then you conduct experiment. That's how you do science. Now you guys have a mistaken
So
belief.
it says through observation and experiment. Why does it say, if it's only one of those things, why does it say both? That's the question I keep asking you that I haven't heard an answer to.
Does
If
it
you
say
have
or?
answered it, then I beg your pardon. Please phrase it
one
a
or the
different way
other?
so I can understand. Hmm?
Is it one
No,
or
it
the
could
other?
be. It could be both, or it could be one, or it could be the other. That's the way I'm reading
Where
that.
does it say it could be one or the other?
When it says and,
What does and mean?
it means it can be both. You can get there by car and you can get there by walking. Does that mean you have to do both? No.
Additionally, or both.
Okay,
As
let me
well
give you
as.
the definition. And
But what if the observation answers your question?
hold
You
on,
don't need to
I'm
do
gonna
an
get
experiment.
You, the definition of and. I didn't realise this was so difficult.
Hang on. But chemo.
Oh, you want to step back in there?
Well, why are you being ridiculous now?
I'm gonna get the
What's
definition
happened?
of and.
What's happened? Have you been hurt?
Okay,
in
what does
some
that
way?
say? Riding on eggshells. The definition of and.
Chemo, if I
Hold on,
cropped,
please.
I'm not gonna
Riding on
play silly.
eggshells. What's the definition of and?
I'm not going to play silly games with you. I think we can
Okay,
both
so I'll
accept
read
that
it
if
if
somebody
you don't wanna
says
read
bread
it.
and
I'll read it,
butter,
don't worry.
we
It
have
says,
both bread and butter, but we
used to
don't need.
connect
One does
words
not
of
necessitate the other.
the
Otherwise, they
same
would say
part of speech, clauses
representation.
or sentences that are taken jointly, bread and butter, together with, along with, as well as, in addition to, including. So you cannot have. It didn't say one or.
Hang on. It did so. It did.
As
well as.
As well as.
Chemo, well done.
As well as.
Be one or the other.
Chemo just pulled a gleam, folks.
Where does it say or?
As well as.
As well as is or.
One can do it through observation
Wait,
as
wait.
well as experimentation.
Hold on. As well as is or.
Son.
Can I just clear this
Correct,
up?
son.
I mean, or what the hell?
Hold on. Are we saying that as well
You
as
can get wrecked by me, and you can get wrecked by Davros.
What
as well as no name?
What
No
world
name.
is
You
this?
can get wrecked by no name as well, and no name as well. All of us could show that what you are posting disagrees with what you are saying. We don't all have to do it.
And running
You
are
can do it,
fun.
and I can do it.
Sex and running are fun.
As well
you cannot
as.
do both of them at the same time.
As well as means or to you guys.
No, it doesn't have to mean or. You can do both. You can do neither. That's what it means. It's and.
So if I say I may as well.
Bread or butter.
I may
eh,
as
Kimo?
well
You
have a
say
look.
bread or butter, do you? Okay. Bread or butter. That's what you're saying.
He has bread or butter. Eggshells, is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I said at all. I said bread and. That's what you're saying. Bread and butter
Bread
means there are
as
two
well
things.
as butter.
Bread as
Yeah.
well. That's another use of the word and.
Chemo, if
Bread, I want
say,
bread as well as butter, not bread or butter.
Yeah, but you're not
Exactly.
understanding the context
It's
of
bread
as well,
and
mate.
butter. That's right. You
Not bread or butter.
Yeah, but it's the fact that you used as well as a definition for and. As well means either or. You understand how that works in the English language?
Hold on. As well as means or.
No, did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said?
My God.
Go on.
Oh my Lord.
This is hilarious.
You didn't hear what I said, did you?
Go on, go on.
Either
As
or.
well as means what?
Either or. Okay, you go and learn comprehension and you'll understand what it means.
So you're saying as well as means or. Either or. So I'll have bread or butter.
As well.
You keep trying to make it seem like they are mutually exclusive. Or means they are exclusive. You use one or the other. If you can do it both ways.
No. You can say you can use one as well as the other.
So there are two ways you can cook a chicken, right? You can put it in the oven, and if you want, you could put it in the microwave, right? You could sometimes go, I'm going to boil it, and I'm going to put it in the oven. You could mean either or you could mean both. That's and is inclusive of both possibilities.
And
or means you only do one or the other. So we're not trying to argue that it means or, so stop saying that. It just shows that you don't understand English or that you recognize that you've been wrecked, and so you keep trying to straw man the other position to make it sound like we're saying or when we keep saying we're not. Very obvious we're not saying that.
Oh God.
Words only have one definition.
So you're saying
there's only one thing, and it's my thing. The thing that QE told me it meant.
Well as experiment means or experiment.
No, it could be both, which is why you use and, because it includes both possibilities. It's not going to say, none of us are saying experiments aren't science. So if we were suggesting it meant or, we are saying you either do an observation or you do an experiment. You cannot do both. How could you not do both? Experiments require observation. So obviously we need to have an inclusive thing that means you could do this and you could do that. You could do one and not the other. That's fine.
You're trolling or something here, dude.
I mean, I get that you recognize you've lost, so you're going to your giggling thing, but I mean, you've not presented anything meaningful here, have you? You're just trying to make it sound like we're saying or. Nobody's suggesting we're saying or.
There's no counter argument. It's just laughing.
It's just giggling. No, you're saying or when we keep saying no. It's clear that's not what we're saying.
I read the definition for and it said as well as, and you said it means or.
No, you said that. I never said it meant or.
What? I read the definition for and it said, let me post it again.
All these other things
you
it
guys
can
are
mean.
Hilarious. Oh,
We've given you so many descriptions for it. If you don't understand English, that's okay. It's going to stand in your way a bit in life, but that's fine.
Let me post it again.
Here's a synonym that you won't like. Exclusive of.
Let me post it again. I was reading the definition for and. Only and. And I said as well as, and you said you see? What is the you see?
I can give you the definition using most of these. So conjunction, right? No, I beg your pardon. That's part of that one. Along with, so here we go. You can do science by doing observations along with experimentations, just as you could do it along with that. You don't have to. You could do it with experimentation. Doesn't require you must do it, right? As well as you could do observation as well as experimentation. Again, not requiring that you do the experiment.
As well as.
In addition to.
It's saying including. It means that it has to go with it.
I'm trying to figure this out. I read out the definition for and. Why did I get stopped? What was the big when I was reading the definition for and?
Because your definition doesn't agree with you. It doesn't say that it must be included with this thing. It just says as well as. As well as is fine.
The definition for and is as well as.
Yeah. Nobody's confused
I don't get why the where's that coming from? I'm not giving the definition for or.
We're on the word.
Yes, we're not suggesting it's the word or, Chemo. The fact that you keep going back to that clearly fallacious point shows that you know that you're wrong here.
So why did you jump in and stop me when I read as well as? What does as well as mean to you?
It means you could have both.
You could,
it means you could have both. Could have. Well, the reason I said could have is because I meant could have.
So it's
if that's confusing to you.
That's
I don't know how to help you.
That's or.
Who brought up or?
If I meant or, I would have said or.
Could isn't that or conditional, optional?
No, it's not optional. It means it means the two options are mutually exclusive. If you do observation, you cannot do experimentation. That's what or would mean, which we are not suggesting. So if you don't stop saying it, I mean, you are going to keep saying it, but we know that shows you, when you do this thing of I don't understand what words mean, it becomes so obvious that you recognize you're on thin ice.
So
you skate around redefining words in bizarre ways.
The could is optional, or is it not?
Good, yeah, you could say that.
If I say.
They could
say I could wear a button-up shirt as well as a pullover. Would you take that to mean I got to wear both shirts?
We're just looking at the word and we've figured out if it also means or.
I'm sure earlier you said you didn't want to spend all day arguing about words, and we're literally spending time arguing about the word and.
Well, because now the Australians think it means or.
But you did it. As well as causing this kerfuffle.
As well as means or.
Right. You could be retarded or you could be lying.
Bring your hat as well as your coat.
You could be lying.
Bring your phone as well as your computer. That mean or.
In that, I would take that to mean both.
That's what the and definition said, both.
But what if you can't observe?
That was the definition for it.
Doesn't always have to mean the same thing. If it changes context, it will change meaning. We're well aware of this. You understand how English works, don't you?
Can you show the definition then for as well as meaning what you said? You know what English means. What's the definition?
Where's
your dictionary? What dictionary are you reading to get this definition?
Are enjoyable.
So it looks like you need observation and experiment. You need both of them, according to the definition that you guys provided.
I mean, it clearly doesn't, but if I'm bored
It
with
depends
the
on
talk,
it depends on the prefix, like what you're saying beforehand. So let me phrase it this way, okay? He studied physics with mathematics and experiments. Okay. Now it could be that he studied it with both in one hand. It could be that he used both in different occasions when he was progressing his study of physics. So it can mean both things, but it depends on how you what the supplicant is, what comes behind it.
Where's the definition for what you're saying?
I'm just giving you an example of which and is actually useful in both cases.
Well, I don't know if you're using broken English. Where is the definition for what you're saying?
What do you mean a definition for what I'm saying? I'm just giving you an example, and you respond to say, where's the definition for the example I gave?
So I'm
there isn't a definition because I just gave an example. An example isn't a definition.
Broken English. Where's the definition of what you're saying?
What do you mean the definition of what I'm saying? I gave an example. What definition would I use for an example?
Yeah, start giving me broken English and explain.
You're just repeating it, aren't you? You're going to say it again, aren't you?
Sure. Yeah, sure, so we can get away from this.
He's going to say this again and again and again instead of responding to what I said.
Yeah, he's a belligerent mode.
He's a belligerent moron. I don't know what to say with him.
Well, you're making your own definitions. Well, I'm going to go with your own definitions.
I gave you an example.
I could say this. You can say whatever you want to say. There's still
of and being used in two different contexts, and your response was, give me a definition for the example that I gave.
As well as in your definition. Yeah, give me the definition of that.
I didn't mention as well as. You're refusing to respond to what I said. That's what's happening.
Because you don't have a definition for what you're saying. You're making it up.
I don't need when I give an example of how
it's not an example
in both contexts.
Broken English.
Why is it broken English?
Give me the definition of as well as meaning what you said.
Why is it broken English? Why is it broken English?
Because
just respond to that.
Definition. Give me the English definition of what you're saying, as well as meaning what you mean.
All right. Okay. You made a claim there, Chemo. Don't interrupt. You made a claim that I used broken English. Just respond to me now. How was it broken English?
It doesn't make sense what you're saying.
Why not?
Because there's no definition for what that means, what you're saying.
Well, I gave an example. So tell me what's wrong with the example.
You can use slang.
It doesn't need a definition. Tell me what's wrong with the definition. What's wrong with the example?
If you're speaking in slang, it's fine. Speaking Urban Dictionary, it's fine. But we're speaking proper English. There's no definition for as well as meaning or.
I never mentioned as well as. I never mentioned or. You're talking about something else now, okay? Do you want me to say the example again? Have you forgotten already, or do you want to respond to it?
Emo is arguing with himself.
I know, but it's embarrassing for him. I don't know how he does it.
I've gone to UCI Berkeley so we can get past this ridiculous conversation. Misconception. Experiments are a necessary part of the scientific process. Without an experiment, a study is not rigorous or scientific. Correction. Perhaps because the scientific method and popular model of portrayals of science emphasize experiments, many people think that science can't be done without an experiment. In fact, there are many ways to test almost any scientific idea. Experimentation is only one approach. There you go, Chemo. Done. We don't need to have this silly conversation about the meaning of words.
Done and dusted.
There we go. That's from a college, UCI Berkeley. Done.
That's not a real school.
Is it not? Why not?
It's not good.
UCI
They just told
Berkeley.
us what Because they just gave that citation there, or you just gave that citation.
The definition of what you've just explained is pseudoscience.
No, it's not. Pseudoscience
It doesn't
is
follow
a
the
very
scientific
different thing.
method, so therefore it's pseudoscience.
But that comes from
Doesn't follow QE's definition of the
university.
scientific method.
So you're arguing against. You're arguing against the definition from a university, like what was it, Berkeley?
Yep, Berkeley, UCI Berkeley.
Right. So now you're actually contradicting the mainstream opinion of what science is defined as. Is that fair to say?
Field authority fallacy. I'll post the pseudoscience definition if you guys like.
Yeah, I'm going to do it as well.
You're going to respond to what I said, Kimo, or just ignore it?
I'm going to do it now, yeah. I'm explaining to you. It doesn't matter who they are or what they do. If they have a set of beliefs based on the scientific method, this is pseudoscience.
If they have a set of beliefs based on the scientific method, that is pseudoscience. Is that what you just said?
Say that. You said there are other ways to do science without doing an experiment. That is pseudoscience.
Well, I didn't say that either. You're making shit up.
Well,
Why
someone
are you saying
did.
that?
Someone said you can do science without an experiment.
Yes, I just posted something from UCI Berkeley. This one's from Khan Academy. It just says form a hypothesis or testable explanation, make a prediction, test the prediction, and iterate.
Yeah.
Doesn't say you've got to have an experiment in there. You can make it. You can make a right.
Well,
so we got Khan Academy and UCI Berkeley practice pseudoscience. Like, let's
it's going to be all of the legitimate sources are going to be pseudoscience. But what you're going to find, Kimo, is you're going to put yourself in a position where you're claiming that all of science that's done is in fact pseudoscience. Now, are you willing to accept that position now before we go through all the other ones?
Experiment, then it's pseudoscience.
Are you willing to accept that your definition for science and the scientific method runs counter to the official line, the status quo opinion of all scientists? Is that your position?
It doesn't matter what the status quo is.
Well, you're not responding to what I said. I'm just asking you, is that your position now?
I'm going with the definition of pseudoscience. If they have a collection of beliefs or practices they can regard as based on scientific method, that is pseudoscience.
Can you give an example from, let's say, the mainstream that actually conforms to your definition of science?
Again, it's not about conforming. It's about what.
You're just not answering a thing I'm saying, Kimo. You realize that you're not responding.
I mean, it does open an interesting
thing. You can't talk
thing
to someone who just doesn't respond to you. So I'm just going to make my point, Kimo, and then you'll refuse to respond to it anyway. You're saying that there's a separate definition for science, okay? That's like a completely separate idea of what science is. It's your idea and QE's idea, right? And it runs counter to the mainstream. But the mainstream has all these incredible advances to science and these products from their idea of what science is, and yours doesn't have anything. So even if I accept that your definition is somehow a better description of what science is, what is it worth? It's worth nothing.
To who?
I mean, it's also
to anyone, because your definition produces nothing in the way of scientific advances, whereas ours does, because it's the mainstream one, and it's the one that's responsible for all the scientific advances.
Which is why it's redundant, because it's mistakenly regarded as based on scientific method.
So you say that the fact that it's responsible for all the scientific advances is evidence that it's redundant. What an absurd thing to say, Kimo.
That's not science.
But why does it matter, even if you're right? Why does it matter? Because it's the one that's producing all these incredible advances, while yours is basically fruitless.
Oh no, it's not. If you have an observed phenomena, you can experiment with your... But more to the point,
what are the fruits, Kimo? Other than getting an egg to be buoyant in a glass of water, okay? What is the fruit of your scientific method? Can you give something, an example?
Well, you said buoyant. That is part of the pseudoscience. That's what we're highlighting.
I'm talking about Sleeping Warrior's example, where he puts salt into a glass of water and says that this is the scientific method. I managed to float an egg. That's his example of some fruit of his scientific method, right? I could point to all the other advances, literally every single one, according to you, that are attributed to the science that isn't actually science, the pseudoscience as you would call it. So what value is your science compared to ours?
This is the whole point. You've just brought up a pseudo-scientific term in buoyancy. We're able to demonstrate that you're wrong.
So you kind of sidestep my point again, so I'm just not going to respond to yours because there's obviously no point.
Well,
I think a fun change of tack, because we're not going to get
claims and proving my point is that you're speaking from a pseudo-scientific standpoint. This is why we do what we do. Correct your pseudoscience and replace it with actual practical science.
Right.
No,
so
you
don't. Let's talk about it then. And a fun change of track. Let's accept your definition of science then, Kimo. It must require experimentation. What would you say? And you would describe it as pseudoscience if it doesn't. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Sure. Let's talk about the scientific rigor of claiming there is a container. Tell us about the container and how we know it exists.
Container?
The container, the thing that's creating the gas pressure.
I haven't claimed this point.
You so there's no container.
Didn't say that. I said there's no pressure.
There's no pressure. We don't have breathable air down here. Okay, that's great. I won't hear you say that again. That's awesome. Because we didn't get there through experimentation, did we? We just asserted it was there because we read a definition somewhere.
There was pressure, no experiment. Yeah.
I mean, no, I've not done many experiments in my life. I don't claim to be a scientist. But the question was more about the containment. How is it we don't have the air all falling off the sides of the flat Earth we live on?
Well, how do we know how big the Earth?
Is it infinite? Is that what you're suggesting? That's the only option,
idea.
Right? Infinite or finite? Right, you've got no idea.
You're gonna have to measure it.
Is the pressure contained?
Pressure contained?
The gas pressure? You know, the air pressure.
You're
saying there's no? Oh, you're onto one of these ones. Okay, all right. Well, I guess it was nice chatting.
Is that it?
I mean, sure. When you get on these, like, I'm just going to ask what a word in the question you asked means. It's obviously not engaging in good faith.
All we do is falsify your nonsense.
It's bad faith. It's always you're accepting a bad faith argument when you talk to Kimo.
Yeah. Well, no. Sometimes I think he engages. Honestly, I just think once he gets pinned into a corner, he gets stuck in this thing, chasing his tail, going, "What does that word mean? What does that word mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean?" And it's just pointless talking to him.
Well, again, I'm not professing to be wise like you guys are.
No,
hey,
I'm
riding on eggshells. Can I give you a little something that you might want to use if you get stuck in this predicament again?
Sure, go for it.
All right. So A is and B is or in this answer, right?
Yeah.
To strictly answer the question, you should use A and B, so and or, when you explicitly mean both A and B. Right?
Hang on. Give that to me all over again.
Okay, so you will use and or if you want it to be both observation and experiment. You would actually, in that sentence structure, you would use and or. Okay? Right? If you wanted it to be both of them used together. Right? In the case of what we actually read, it actually uses A to mean either A or B or both. It's a grammatic structural error.
Yeah. I mean, it's ambiguous. I wouldn't say it's error as much as I would say it's ambiguous.
Yeah, it's an ambiguous word in that definition.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's not ambiguous, but you show your lack of, you guys are saying Kimo is coming in bad faith. A basic definition of the word you won't agree on and just back off of it when you're incorrect in it.
Sorry, we were talking about the use in the grammatic sense of the word, and I was actually correct.
Yeah, no, you guys don't want to be wrong, so you guys will just
but I was actually correct. So what's the problem?
Incorrect. So
the fact that I can find a definition that shows me to be correct.
You're going to claim that people aren't that you're going in good faith by not agreeing on basic definitions of words.
You understand the conversation you're in, where semantics is the crux of this argument.
It's a semantic argument. What do you think is going to be gained by going, oh, it's just semantics? If we're having a discussion about semantics.
Well, have a good time. You guys seem to be
seem to be war.
Well, you need to have observation and experimentation. I mean, without observation, you don't have theories, and without theories, you can't really do experiments with any sort of guidance.
Yes, you certainly need the observations. I think the observations are key. I just think that an observation is enough to be able to make a prediction and test it. And I think the testing is really what the science is about. And one can do that.
Like if we were going to test the shape of the Earth. Like if we were going to try to scientifically or whatever test the shape of the Earth, we need some observation theory from perspective and art.
to know, what we're expecting on, kind of a flattish plane. Those observations help us formulate our theories and make us say things like, oh, the scene is being blocked by a hump of Earth curvature, or, it's the diffraction limit where the sky and ground are meeting into a line over a flat plane. One, both, neither. That theory is very pivotal for going forward and interpreting experiments.
What if you can't control the variables? That means you can't experiment on the system or whatever you're looking at.
Ideally, you try to test it as much as possible, but you can go forward with some guidance with or without that.
Well, there's these things called natural experiments, which allow you to look at systems where you cannot vary the variables within them as a kind of like dependent variable test, and that's the name for an observation-only experiment.
Well, even in optics, that's highly theoretical too. What were you saying?
It's in contrast to a controlled experiment where you do vary the variables.
Also makes me question, and I don't know the answer to this, of those, like, we shot a laser across this lake, does that match the definition, the weird restrictive definition that they're using for experiment? Because I would have thought you have to change your variables, meaning you would have to be altering refraction. I don't understand how you could do that. So that to me would just be an observation. It wouldn't actually be science.
Exactly.
You ask. But
I don't know QE.
It's an experiment that you're seeing what happens when you things around.
I don't know how QE argues this, but in the Black Swan argument, he just denies that it has any kind of scientific value and claims that it's a logical argument. So maybe he would do the same kind of thing with that. I mean, it's a really bad logical argument, doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't seem to matter to any of the people who follow him.
We should
they don't claim that that's a So do they do any experiments? Is there any experiment at all after, as much as they bleat about the scientific method requires experimentation? Is this not to validate their method? It's just to throw out everybody else's.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They did float an egg though. Sleeping Warrior managed to get an egg to float in a glass of water, and they're very impressed with that.
I beg your pardon.
They're really, really happy about it. That's a really big, important step in the scientific progress of the world.
Guys, is because the flat Earth doesn't require science; it requires measurements. The globe Earth requires science. The globe Earth has phenomena that requires an independent variable manipulation to the cause and effect. There's nothing on the flat Earth that requires us to manipulate. We can't manipulate the distance to the horizon, you just measure it.
So you don't do science?
On the flat Earth, there's no requirement, unless, again, you're asking about things about the sun, then you'd have to come up with an independent variable. Things disappearing over the horizon, again, you'd have to have an independent variable. On the flat Earth, it doesn't require. This is why we hammer you guys, because you claim to have science. And what we find is none of it is science, it's all based on belief.
So was I wrong? You don't use that gas pressure argument, Chemo? Or do you just not use it today?
Yeah, I asked where the pressure comes from in your model.
Right, so you just ask questions.
Yeah, because you claim there's atmospheric pressure.
Are you denying that?
Well, it wouldn't be an experiment if you're talking about a cause-effect relationship, but it would be an experiment colloquially, where you just see what happens when you shoot a laser over a long distance. You would expect it, A, to hit a hump of Earth curvature, or B, just to hit the target, be it the eye, the grid, or whatever. So it would be colloquially an experiment, by that definition, but not checking the cause and effect relationship.
But that's,
I'm with you, Lemon.
That's kind of my point, right? Yeah, because if it's the case that all the valuable information you manage to get from the world around you is based on these what you would call colloquial experiments, then they're the actually valuable experiments, aren't they? All the other true to the scientific method experiments, in your opinion, are functionally useless because all they do is tell you how to float an egg in a glass of water.
Yeah, I mean, it all works together.
One of the biggest questions is, why do things fall? I believe it's because of a force. So we can answer that question with science.
Well, we need to observe things like things clumping together via gravity. We need to see that general observation before we can go with gravity as perceived by Newton anyway. Otherwise, it's kind of theoretical. And, you see a bunch of observations and try to explain it and go forward.
So, I mean, you mean like Cavendish, right?
Yeah, yeah. We could explain that by masses attracting masses or space pushing or pulling the masses together. Either explanation would be valid at that point if you want to go with that.
We have tried that, and we kind of fail every time because I've asked you to basically define the direction of the ether, like your supposed force, and there's no way to come up with a reasonable answer for that. At least not yet. Someday you might show it, but at this point, we're going to go with the scientific consensus, which is it's a force, and we call it gravity.